Use It or Lose It, the show that looks at all things rugby as we lead up into the Rugby World Cup. Can't wait for the action to get going. It's under 2 weeks now till we get started. And on tonight's show, we're going to be focusing in particular on Pool A and Pool B. Pool A currently Ireland favourites, and Pool B, well, New Zealand are favourites, but pretty much being contested there a little bit with South Africa, who we obviously are all pulling for and hoping can do well. So we'll have a look at those two groups in particular. We'll also have a look at some of the other teams in the group, discuss what sort of a role, if any, they're going to play in determining the outcome of the group, and perhaps in some harsh cases discuss should they actually be at the Rugby World Cup or not. What are they going to gain from being here? Well, let me start off by introducing you to the panel. Just before I do that, you can go down below the video, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell if you haven't seen any of our videos before. I'll also be putting a few links up there. I've got one there at the moment, and that is to our Super Brew pool, but we'll talk more about that later. Jacques from the yellowcap.com will be joining us at some point if he can get his internet connection right. But in the meantime, let's go to the panel. Starting in the middle of the screen, it's Couch Critic. Couch, welcome back to the show. Good to see you.
How's it, Brent? Thanks, man. Yeah, always good being here. And as you said, it's 2 weeks to go. The clock is ticking, so we're all getting seriously excited and ready to get stuck in. We just can't wait, especially with that Bok game. I think we got like a little bit of a taster there of conditions and Japan themselves and seeing a game being played in Japan. So I think we almost like, listen, let's just get this thing going now.
That's it. And talking of those conditions, Couch, I mean, gee, how humid were things there, though, hey? I mean, if that's what we're in for the whole World Cup, it's going to be very interesting indeed to see our teams adapt.
Yeah, very much so, Brent. It was, we could clearly see it was very slippery and sweaty, so it's going to be a bit tough. And I actually think the surprising one there was the ground, the turf coming up quite easily as well. So hopefully they've, at the big venues that won't be as big an issue. But otherwise, if it is going to be, I mean, obviously with betting wise and that kind of thing, but even just generally, we could see some lower points perhaps than what people are expecting.
Yeah, that's for sure. Let's go to Judge Rugby, at Judge Rugby on Twitter. You still battling there, Judge, to get onto Twitter?
Yeah, it's a bit of an issue. I'm hoping to be up and running this week, so we'll see what happens.
Excellent. Well, we do look forward to having you back, missing all your comments on there, and looking forward to your comments on the groups. And joining us now, he's got the better of his internet connection. It's Jacques from the yellowcap.com. Jacques, good to have you on the show.
Thanks, guys, and sorry for coming late.
No problem. As you said, the VIPs normally rock up late, eh?
Yeah, you know it.
Excellent. Now, that's the nice thing about this. I must say, this particular format we use is when guys come in, you have to actually bring them in. It's not like with the old Google Hangouts where you just suddenly heard all this background noise and a guy suddenly stormed into the show, so to speak. But Jacques, we were just talking about the conditions in Japan there, that Bok game against Japan. Some serious humidity. I mean, a lot of was spoken about this at the start, but the boys looked like they were sweating up in the anthems there.
Yeah, geez, they were literally sweating. I mean, I saw some of the training footage from today, and geez, it was even worse than what we saw on Friday. That's just during the daytime. So I actually feel sorry for any teams that are going to have daytime games. This World Cup's going to be interesting. That's all I know from that perspective alone.
Judge, have you had a look? I mean, I've heard some reports that say that as the tournament goes on, it should get better as the season changes and that sort of stuff. Have you got any views on that? Have you seen it? Because I was quite shocked by just how much humidity there was about there on Friday.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I haven't seen, but I don't know how much it can change in a month. But yeah. To be fair, famous last words. But it's going to be a bit challenging for a lot of sides. Like, the weather might change a bit, but I don't think the teams and the players will be able to adapt in that period of time, So, like, I think there's quite a lot going for the guys that are a little bit acclimatized, so to speak, already, and guys that have trained and worked in that situation in the past.
That's a Couch. We always talk about the Sharks and that they play in the humid conditions, yet they don't really seem to adapt to it. In other words, the Sharks play some of their worst rugby at home and some of their best rugby away if you look at the Super Rugby season. I've got a bit of a theory on humid conditions that you may not want to be there that long. In other words, you can go early and prepare, but I think if that sort of heat saps your energy over a period of time. Do you think teams are better off sort of flying in at the last minute or doing what the Boks have done and going as early as possible?
Well, Brent, I mean, it's not the same as altitude, of course. It's, as you say, it's not like you probably get too much of an advantage in the build up and that kind of thing. But I do think, getting used to heat is something that is a good idea, especially a humid kind of heat. I mean, I'm from Richards Bay. If you get back there in that part of the world, it's almost like this greenhouse effect kind of thing. So I think it could really sap you and hit you off guard if you're not used to it. So I do think it's a bit of a benefit. And as I've told you before, I don't think the Sharks are the best kind of sample to look at there, especially the last season or two. But I mean, there have been times that I think they've played some decent rugby at home and have been decent at home. So I do think people who aren't used to it at all, like, I mean, let's say a Scotland or something like that, it could be a real turn up for them. And perhaps the Sharks or the South Africans don't need as much prep time, but I think it's in general just good to be at home where you are and be comfortable.
Well, you'll recognise the name of the person who made the comment there, Couch, Henrik Swart. We know him. He's a punter and he loves going low on games. And he's making the point that he just hopes it gets more and more humid as the World Cup goes, which will be great for his betting, but not really great for, let's call it, your average fan or neutral who wants to see some tries. But anyway, guys, the focus on tonight's show, really, we want to look at Pool A and Pool B. We'll probably cover C and D next week unless something else hot pops up. And just talk about perhaps some of the crucial games and who's most likely to go through. And Couch, I'll start with you here. Let's start with Ireland. I can tell you, as far as the bookmakers go, they are very firm favourites to top Pool A. They're sort of the 1 to 4. Scotland seen as their only rivals, which obviously labels the Ireland-Scotland game as a pretty crucial one. And then you go down, you've got Japan, Samoa, and Russia. Are Ireland as strong of favourites, or are they worthy of the sort of favouritism they're getting in this group, or is there a chance that Scotland and perhaps any of the other teams can challenge them?
No, Brent, I think in this pool they definitely deserve the favourite tag there. They one of the teams in the running for that much disputed world rankings #1 spot. So, and I think in the Six Nations we've pretty much seen that they are a little bit of a step above Scotland. So I think they're actually one of those teams in the pool where we almost, we all do our predictions, but pretty much everyone's got Ireland winning that pool. I think it's the more certain of the pools there. And then just in terms of the games on Sunday, the 22nd, it's Ireland versus Scotland. So, I mean, we're going to get that one pretty much decided early doors as well. So that's going to get out of the way, and Ireland will prep for that one, get themselves up for that one. And as soon as it's done, it's pretty much a job done for them. Obviously, we look forward to seeing what Japan can do against them, but we don't see Japan upsetting Ireland. And we have spoken about it a little bit. It would be great if Japan could possibly give Scotland a good run. And in that instance, we just talking about that as well. Obviously, I've said myself that I think Ireland have peaked a little bit early, but I just it's almost the same for Scotland as well. 18 months ago, they played some better rugby, I think, than they're playing at present. I mean, Hugh Jones not even making the squad. He's been unfortunate with injury and that kind of thing. So I just think they're not exactly at their best either. So it's going to be an interesting pool, but I don't see Ireland struggling. And then Japan and Scotland, obviously, most of us, the neutrals, would like to see Japan put up a good showing, but I think Scotland will probably still pip them there. And then another big game, Japan-Russia, obviously in the opener. That's going to be nice and interesting and pretty much important for Japan to get a good solid win and really get the fans behind them and get this competition going and the home fans involved.
Right, so you don't see past Ireland there for top of the pool. Let's go to Judge on this one. Judge, first of all, interested in your comments on the Japan performance against the Boks. They were well beaten, but I, for one, actually didn't think they were that bad. I thought they showed some really good signs. Perhaps just a bit of a problem in some of the set pieces there.
Yeah, they've definitely impressed. Especially if you look back over the last 4 years, I know they beat the Boks 4 years ago, but I think as a whole they've got better. I think as a squad they've got better. I think the big thing is Japan, Scotland. I think Scotland will be a little bit worried about that. I think Scotland a little bit sort of up and down in a number of places. They're okay up front and in the tight five, and their loosies are pretty good. Pretty good in the halfback pairing, and I think between Finn Russell and Hastings, I think they're pretty handy at 10. And they've got the outside backs to sort it out. But Japan will have a plan against them in terms of how they want to sort out, especially at scrum time, and upset their set piece. And once you do that against Scotland, they will fold a little bit, because they're a little bit up in the air at the moment how they want to sort things out. I think Ireland are in a good space. Obviously, there's no doubt about it. I think they're struggling at 10 at the moment. I think Johnny Sexton's not in the right space and where they expect him to be. And I think the backup 10s, the guys, I don't think they are fully committed to their backup 10s yet. I think that's where they are. I think their backup 10s, the guys are pretty handy, but I don't think they as a team are sorted. They're very, very good in the midfield. They can either have Henshaw or Ringrose at 13 and Bundy Archie at 12, or they can have Robbie Henshaw at 12, and outside backs are good. Locks are pretty good. I think leaving Devon Toner out is much of a muchness. If you take the sentiments away from it, I think Jean Klein's in incredible form, and I think Jean Klein covers more options than Devon Toner. I think Devon Toner is an out-and-out 5, where Jean Klein can play 4, 5 and blind. And I think up front their struggle with the front rows is hitting their lineouts, which is something that's really only been highlighted or really become a problem recently. And I think it might kind of be a monkey on their back at the moment, where a year ago we wouldn't have had an issue with it. So I think that's going to be quite interesting. I think Samoa are there to upset someone, and I wouldn't mean directly in the game. I think they might upset someone with a big hit or something and rock the boat a little bit, just depending when they sort it out, because they are very intimidating, and players do, when you are winning the game by 20 points, as you sometimes might against Samoa, I think that's when the guys might be sitting back and going, listen, we've won the game, we've got the 5 points. Let's just kind of go through the motions, and they're going to get their heads chopped off, So I think that'll be fun. I think Russia are playing some decent rugby. They're definitely playing better rugby than they have in the past. And I watched them again against Connacht this weekend. They're pretty handy. They're not going to cause any problems. But in terms of a game, I think the Russia-Japan game is going to be really good. And I think the Russia-Samoa game is going to be pretty decent as well. But other than that, Ireland should take it, and then waiting to see who finishes second, because I don't think it's a dead certain Scotland.
Right, so it's sounding like a little bit more competitive in your eyes there. Let's go to Jacques and get his opinion on the group.
Yeah, actually, look, about a year ago, Ireland was clear favourites in many aspects of the tournament, and not just, I think, the pool. But I think things have changed quite a bit in the last 12 months. I'm not convinced about the Northern Hemisphere teams at this stage of the game being so competitive as we might have thought about a year or 6 months even ago. Look, they obviously, when it comes to the pool stages, I think the obvious one is to go for is Ireland topping this pool. But I've got a sneaky feeling that Scotland might pull a hat out of a cat out of the hat, or a rabbit out of the hat, or whatever you want to pull out of the hat, but they're going to do something funny, yeah. I also think the Bok game against Japan, I think the score is a bit, like we would say in Afrikaans, it's flyer mense 'n bietjie. I think Hein can translate that. Anyway, but I don't think it's a true reflection of the game. I mean, obviously, there was a lot on the line for the Boks. They wanted to get that monkey off their back, which they've now done, and we can focus on the rest of the tournament. But I think Japan's going to make things interesting. It's just a pity the opening game. I don't think the opening game is the ideal game to get this kind of tournament off on the right foot. But luckily, there's a very good game the following day, which is obviously going to set the tone, I think. But I'm gonna be brave and say that Scotland's gonna top this pool for some weird reason, and then Ireland probably will be second. It would have been nice to see Japan cause an upset or two, but I don't think much more than the Russia game is gonna happen for them. Maybe Samoa, but more than that, I don't think it's gonna happen. But my quick prediction off the cuff. I'm not a betting man, but if I had the money, I'd somewhat take a chance because I think the odds might be pretty good on Scotland topping the pool.
Yeah, we can get 33-10 on Scotland topping the pool. That's not bad in what really looks like a two-horse race. Effectively, I suppose it all depends on what sort of runners you consider Japan. I mean, Couch, I do think that Japan are capable of causing an upset and beating a Scotland, but I can't see anyone stopping Ireland, like you said, sort of getting the pool. But what about the Jacques touched on the Japan-Samoa game? What do you make of that one? Because I actually think Japan will start that game quite firm favourites.
Well, Brent, I mean, we don't have to wonder too much. They played Pacific Nations Cup and Japan did the business. So, I mean, to me, it shouldn't be too much of a problem there. Japan have got a better total game, and that's actually what I wanted to say. There is, if you look at the game, you rightly said it as well that they didn't disgrace themselves at all, Japan. And the only areas where, okay, I know you say only, it's big areas, and I firmly believe that you still win a game of rugby at the set pieces, and we dominated them at first phase. So you're always going to struggle winning a rugby game if you can't scrum and you can't line out, and that's where the Boks are obviously fundamentally very good, and that's where Japan really struggle. But there aren't a lot of teams around that are really going to dominate Japan as much as we do. So a team like Samoa, Russia, even Scotland, they're not all conquering and all dominant. So hopefully, when Japan have an even footing, they're extremely skilled at the back. They're extremely fast. They play a total game and offloading and running lines. So I'm a big fan of the game that Japan play. And again, in those conditions, they almost seem capable of playing it for 60 to 80 minutes. And that's where someone like even Samoa, your big guys and Islanders and all that, but they're not used to keeping that tempo up for that entire time. So that's probably where they could hold the edge. And I think even in the Bok game, we probably saw it. The Yankees intercept probably papered over it a bit, but for mine, they finished stronger. Japan had a much stronger second half than the Springboks did, and obviously it plays a huge part being ahead by that much. But I'm reasonably confident. I saw enough out of Japan to be really confident that they're going to be contenders. They should win the Samoa game. They'll win the Russia game with ease, and then it's all about that Scotland game and going on judge there. It's actually the final game of the whole pool phase is going to be Scotland Japan. So it's actually nice that they've bookended it that way, where Japan have got a pretty easy run in. I actually think I know Jacques wants probably a bit more of a big game, but I think it's ideal for the Japs to get into the easier game, get themselves up and running, and then the final game is going to be the decider. You don't really want to play Scotland first out of the gates, lose that one, and almost the interest starts to falter away, and that's not ideal for the host nation. So no, I think Japan are runners. Let's be honest, Scotland will probably beat them, but it should be good fun.
Mm-hmm. Certainly be plenty of interest there. I guess the other thing about this pool is whether you come first or second in this pool, Judge, you're faced with a really tough quarterfinal because you play either the All Blacks or South Africa. Whereas if you look at it the other way around, and we'll get on to Group B now, you would argue that you'd rather play Scotland than Ireland. And I suppose you'd say, based on history and that, you'd rather play the Springboks than New Zealand. But realistically, at the moment, either way, you're getting a hell of a tough quarterfinal match when you come out of this pool.
Yeah, I think it's massive. And Hein, thanks, man. Like the final game, Japan-Scotland, is an absolute cracker. Like I didn't realize it was the last game of the pool, but the pressure going to be on Scotland as well, I feel then. And that's Scotland lately have been buckling a little bit in a way. Like if you look at the last game of the Six Nations this year, I think it was 38 all against England. That was a cracker, but they've kind of faltered a little bit. And a year and a bit ago, they were in some great form. So I still think they're struggling to find themselves. They might get a better rhythm by then. But I think Japan might be in a better rhythm too. And when pressure on people and the home ground's there, home ground advantage, it's going to be huge. It could be quite interesting. Thoroughly looking forward to it. I think the most clear-cut group in terms of 1-2 is definitely Pool B. I think all the rest are up for discussion.
Yeah, there's certainly, I think maybe, as you say, in Pool B, all that's up for discussion is probably the top place. Guys, I want to stop for 1 second now before we move on to Pool B. I'm going to give you guys a bit of a trivia question and see which of you can get it. Just shout out if you know the answer. Here's the question. Which team which team has the highest winning margin in Rugby World Cup history? We'll see. The guys in the live chat can try it as well. They're obviously a bit of a delayed feed.
So they've won by the most comparative
points. Which team's won by the most points in World Cup history? Couch, any guesses?
I'll have a go on that All Black Jab game, or what was it? All Black, which was 100 and something.
95.
I can tell you the sharp. One of our live guys has got
Australia. I'm going to go with Australia.
There we go. Henrik's got it. It was Australia. I'll give you the answer now. It was Australia against Namibia, and that was in, where was it? 2003. 142-0. Can you believe it? So well done to Henrik.
I did know that the All Blacks was too much of an easy guess. That's why I thought the only best option was Australia. But
because the All Blacks, I think the All Blacks scored 145 against, I think it was Japan, but they conceded like 17 or something like that. So that was it. Well, I'll throw in another little trivia question towards the end of the show as well. But let's move on to Group B. And Jacques, we'll start with you. Making up Pool B, we've got New Zealand, we've got New Zealand, we've got South Africa, we've got Italy, we've got Canada, and we've got Namibia. Now, obviously, New Zealand are the favourites for this group. South Africa are firm second favourites. And to your guys' point, I mean, if you look at the betting, Italy are 200-1, and they're the third favourites in the group. So this really is being seen as a two-horse race. I guess that's hard to argue with, other than, I mean, who knows? I mean, Italy, I was quite impressed with them for patches against England the other day. They've beaten us before. I guess if one of the teams has a really off day, but yeah, I guess we're looking at these two teams progressing.
Yeah, look, as much as I want obviously the Boks to win every match possible, and I know guys are gonna probably give me stick for saying it, but I mean, and I was at a function last week Thursday, and John Smith also said what I'm gonna say now, and I'm not saying it because he said it. This has been my thought since I saw the draw, which was more than a year ago already. Is, you know what, it is a tournament, and people say you got to beat the best to be the best. But unfortunately, the format of the tournament allows you to get an easy route or a not so easy route. And then the easy route is for us, unfortunately, to lose that first game. I'm not saying the Boks are going to throw the game. They will not do that at all, not with Rassie in charge. But I think if the All Blacks did make a statement, for me, it was this weekend. When I saw that scoreline, I was like, okay, for me, that is a statement. Not the other day when they, I actually forgot what game was that? Oh, the game against Australia, that second Bledisloe game. Everyone was going on about, the All Blacks are back. I wasn't convinced yet, but and I know they played Tonga. But if you're going to play a team like Tonga or Samoa or whoever, then you got to put 90 on them, especially if you're the All Blacks. So it is going to be a tough game, come hell or high water. We did play Japan this past weekend. I wasn't 100% convinced about our performance. Yes or no, it was our first game there. Conditions are tough, and that's why Rassie's gone over early to get the guys used to it, because he obviously knows what's coming his way. But the easiest route is for us to unfortunately come second in the pool. And past hasn't, to my knowledge, there hasn't been a World Cup yet where the winning team has lost a game yet. But I think on this show, said it a few weeks ago, that this might be the first World Cup where something like that will happen, where the team ultimately lifting the trophy might have lost a game. So there's no reason for that not to happen. I think, obviously Italy is probably the favourites to be third, but Namibia has had quite an interesting build up towards this World Cup. Probably one of their best preparations they've had into the World Cup as well. I think we might just see an upset from them. They haven't even won a game at the World Cup yet, so I think this is going to be their first year, and I think they're going to hopefully walk away with even 2 victories, which is in my books is going to be Canada and Italy. But I see Heinz disagreeing big time. But it's fine.
You
I
can
like
notice
people
that.
disagreeing because it's lovely when I am right. Then I can just laugh. But anyway, that's not what it's about. It's just my prediction. I could be wrong, and I don't mind being wrong. It's fine. But yeah, for me, it's going to be the All Blacks first and the Box second, and whatever comes next doesn't really matter.
I do recall you having a bet with someone once on Twitter, and I can't remember the details, but one of you had to do something ridiculous if the other one lost. I can't remember what actually happened there.
Yeah, the short and the sweet of it is it was a Super Rugby bet with Mr. World Cup. And I think Mr. Rugby World Cup is his handle on Twitter. So we've been having banter for quite a few years. And finally, we came to the party and made a bet. And the bet was basically whoever ends up highest on the final table between South Africa and Australia has got to wear the opposing nation's kit for a day. So unfortunately, yeah, the Bulls messed up a little bit and we didn't get that second spot on the table, and the Brumbies did. And yeah, that's one of those things. So I had to wear a Wallaby. I had to wear a Wallaby kit for a day, which was okay. It wasn't that bad.
It wasn't too bad. Well, we maybe have to have some little bets amongst us as well, maybe next week going into the World Cup. Couch, let's go to you. I'm not in agreement, and I know you were shaking your head about Namibia, so you'll share your thoughts on that. I'm not 100% in agreement that coming second in this group is a better route. I do realize that you likely avoid England in the semi-finals, but I think you've got a much harder quarterfinal, and I think it's very dangerous to look too far ahead. Personally, I think you want to top this group and take that momentum with you into the next round. So interested in your thoughts on that. And then, yes, what else you got to share on the group there?
Well, definitely, Brent, the guys will just handle it one game, all those normal taglines you see one game at a time. And, there's nothing in winning or losing that first game. They're obviously going to go out there, put everything out on the field and try and win the first one. And if they don't, they're going to go back to, don't worry, it's not the end of the world, and we'll just keep chucking along and try and beat who's ahead of us. But again, I see Scotland, or even if you're lucky, Japan sneaking it in there. So winning the pool definitely gives you an easier ride than having to face Ireland there. So it's definitely you'd like to win it, but obviously you can't do much. And I mean, it's a bit difficult being confident in a team saying that you think they're going to lose the first game, but they're going to win the World Cup. I mean, then how they're going to beat the All Blacks if they can't beat them in the first one? Or unless you hope they don't get, but you don't get the All Blacks again. But that's not the kind of thinking you want. So I mean, everyone that's in the Bok camp must be pretty enthusiastic about that first one and hope they get the job done. Hendrik actually said something quite interesting there on the chat, is that the conditions probably won't suit New Zealand. Now I think he might be talking about it both in two aspects. There's firstly, them not being used to playing in afternoon or in warm weather kind of rugby. Usually it's quite rainy and miserable in New Zealand in rugby season. So probably a warm type of game could be something different. It's almost like that Fiji game that they play every year. And then secondly, does their game suit that kind of where you have to knuckle down and just play a little bit more pick and go and not the fancy moves and that kind of thing? So you could be onto a very good point there. The only thing that I would say is from the Southern Hemisphere teams, I do think New Zealand are the best kicking team in the world. They kick smartly, they kick effectively, and that's probably where I think a lot of people just, they kind of look over that and they miss it. But Mo'unga obviously hasn't had a chance yet to show that international level, but at Crusaders, the control he has of his boot is fantastic, and when deciding to use the boot and when not, and then the use of attacking kicks as well, that's pretty brilliant. So I think that's the one thing that perhaps we aren't thinking about, is that if it does come back to more kicking, then apart from a England or perhaps a Sexton for Ireland, a New Zealand team are pretty slick at using kicks. So I wouldn't be too concerned on that front, perhaps the Heat, but I mean, as you've also said, it's probably pretty much the same for everyone there in terms of a disadvantage. This pool, I see it pretty clearly as New Zealand. Obviously, it's going to be tough that first game, but New Zealand, Box, Italy. I mean, we can talk about an upset in Canada and Namibia. Italy aren't a great team, but they play every year. They play the top guys. They play 5 crunch games, and this is the kind of topic I want to come to after this as well. it's almost, like lambs to the slaughter there for those small teams. They just don't get yearly the kind of games and the kind of challenges that Italy does. And obviously everyone's saying Italy should be kicked out, and perhaps a Georgia or something like that. And that's what the small teams maybe would strive to try and show in this World Cup. But don't be mistaken, Italy is a far, far better team than Namibia and Canada, and they'll put them away easily. And then the only interesting game, and again, it's been slotted in there, not the only interesting game, obviously the Bok game is interesting, but the last game again on that last Sunday is going to be Canada and Namibia, and that's where Cappy is going to have to hope for his Namibians to get their first World Cup win, or at the end he might be having to wear a maple leaf.
We'll look forward to that one. Let's go to Judge. Judge, we'll get your opinion.
Just be careful that you don't wear anything, Hein.
Judge, we'll get your opinion on this group, and also just I know you're not on Twitter at the moment. I don't know if you're actually able to read Twitter, but I know you at the moment. But there's been quite a lot of chat about De Arlander on Twitter as well, and I thought you might just want to weigh in on him at the moment. I think quite a lot of guys are suddenly coming out in support of De Arlander, and quite a while ago he didn't have a lot of support, so he still seems quite a divisive player. But I must say, a lot more support, and yourself and Couch must be quite happy to see that.
Yeah, listen, I'm keeping a little look-see, but just not able to shout to people as much as I was. But having an interesting chat with a couple of guys, like, it's such an interesting space. Like, there's people that hate players. And I'm all for, like, if you don't like someone, that's cool. But you've got to, like, when the guy plays well, you've got to, like, put your hand up and say, listen, well done, he played well. And that's the only thing that really grates me is this weekend, guys like, oh, no, he doesn't pass, he doesn't this, he doesn't that. He was involved with, like, 3 or 4 of the tries, did really well, made all his tackles, passed, kicked, so he had a bad kick. Like, I mean, do me a favor. I saw Villy had a bad kick. It's just, it is what it is, man. I think, he could single-handedly win the World Cup for the Springboks and still won't get the accolades he deserves, or won't even get a mention about it. It is what it is. Also, Cappy, just one thing, wearing a Wallaby jersey for a day, I promise you, mate, it's better than wearing an England jersey for a day, so you can count yourself lucky there, dude. I couldn't
or a Sharks jersey.
Well, listen, at least they made the playoffs, eh? But anyway, I think, listen, in all seriousness, Group B, it's a 2-horse race. We all know that. We all know whoever wins the opening game wins the group. I think the biggest thing is, I think the guys are really going to be focused on who's going to play in the quarterfinal and see how the group goes. But the truth is you can't predict who you're going to play in the quarterfinal. Like, no matter what happens, we play the All Blacks first. Like, are we going to throw that game in? Like, I don't think anyone's going to throw that game because just now Ireland slip up somewhere, and then all of a sudden your whole theory goes down the toilet. So I think that's it's much of a muchness. I think, like, it's going to be a great game. It's going to be a good place of sorting it out. I think the big thing that people must understand as well about New Zealand and Australia is Japan's not a foreign area for them. Like, that they can travel and go to Japan easily. Like, it's just as easy as we travel, like through South Africa. There's plenty of Kiwis in Japan. There's plenty of Aussies. The guys travel around there. They're very familiar with the conditions. Not necessarily playing week in and week out, but they know what to expect. Whereas England, Ireland, Wales, Scotland, South Africa, like, to us, we go there for for Super Rugby in recent times, but everyone else is going to go there, and it's going to kind of be a little bit of a culture shock. We've got more guys playing in the top league there year in and year out. So I think the Northern Hemisphere sides are going to struggle to adjust a little bit more. With regards to the rest of the group, like, it's really difficult to look past Italy finishing third. And for Namibia to get a win this World Cup, even against Canada, who are possibly in the worst form I've seen in many, many, many years, is quite tough. I think a very bad Canada side is still better than a very good Namibia side, and I still don't think Namibia are exceptionally good at the moment. I think they're not in a great space. I think they, like Canada, have dropped off in the recent years. They've got a few guys playing overseas, playing in the Pro D2, playing in the Championship in England and stuff like that. But I think as a side in a whole, I don't think they're going to cause too much. I think Italy are definitely the best, the next best side in that group by far. They've got some really big name players. They've got a couple of guys that are playing some really great rugby at the moment. Minozzi, I think, on wing, Campagnaro at midfield. They're pretty handy with the locks and up front. So, I think it's going to be a coin flip between South Africa and New Zealand. And by coin flip, I mean whoever takes the game on the 21st. And I think Italy finished third.
Well, I've just raised a question then. I'm pleased you mentioned coin flip, Judge, and I'll start with you and see if you've got an idea. What if South Africa and New Zealand draw that opener? Because now you've got a drawn game. Any idea how the pool gets decided after that? Because to Jacques' point, you're not going to throw a game in the World Cup, not a chance. But now imagine you coming down to the final games and it works. Points difference.
I just want to say something. I'm not saying the Boks are going to throw the game. That's not what I'm saying at all.
No. I realize.
I mean,
yeah. No.
What I'm saying is that from my calculations, no. I'm not saying you saying. All I'm trying to say is I wasn't saying that the Boks will throw the game. I just think it is a better route according to what I worked out. I could be wrong, but I know Hein differs from me. But that all I wanted to say is I never said the Boks will throw a game. And I'm not alluding to that either. I think they will give it their all. I mean, Rassie, we're the only team going into this World Cup that's unbeaten. So why would you want to spoil that record? But whatever happens on the day, it's going to happen. We'll wait and see. But I just want to make it clear that I never said the Boks will throw a game. I just want to make sure everybody knows that's not what I said.
No, 100% agree with you there. It's a little bit like, I think what you guys should be saying, another way of putting it was, it may not be a bad game to lose at the end of the day. It's not that a question of throwing, but perhaps their route will be better if they lose. And like Judge says, you can't actually even think about that at the start because for all you know, Scotland beat Ireland and England lose to France and things could really get mixed up there. But what I do find quite interesting is if it's a draw, Rob saying in the thing that if two teams are tied on points, then it's the most tries. If New Zealand and South Africa draw, then it could get quite interesting because assuming it comes down to most tries or points difference, then without having then teams will be able to look at the log and go, do we want to score 20 tries against Namibia or not? Do you have any idea, Jacques, how it's decided if there is a draw in the pool stages?
To be honest with you, I haven't even thought of that. It's actually a scary thought now that you've brought it up. And I mean, it's actually funny not thinking about it, seeing as we've already drawn with them this year and how close the games have been in the last 2 years. So, yeah, you've actually just opened a bit of a can of worms for me on this side. I don't know. Hopefully the other two guys have looked at that scenario.
No, excellent. I'll be honest, I haven't looked at it much. Have you had a look at how that's decided?
Brent, I haven't, but I'm pretty sure it's either going to be tries or it's going to be points scored, which either way it's going to be New Zealand if we draw. Because, New Zealand are just better at putting away a smaller team and they'll probably rack up more points against Italy, probably more against Canada and Namibia. So I'm pretty sure, it'll probably be either tries or points difference. And I just see the All Blacks probably edging us in that one. As I said, I just think they're better at executing. They ruthless even if they play the B team and they won't take the foot off the pedal. But as you said, it could be pretty weird going into those last games and everyone almost not trying not to score points. That would be very weird. But as I said, I don't see anyone playing that kind of game. Everyone's just going to play for first spot and play for maximum.
That's it. Yeah, I've got a wild imagination looking at that one. But anyway, that would be interesting. Couch, any more comments for you on the group before? I would like to come back to your point about the weaker teams. I just want to throw in a trivia question before that. But let's finish off the group first. Anything more on the group before we move on?
No, as I said, I see New Zealand probably just about edging us in that first one. Us taking second. Italy, I actually think now as we're talking, I want to go check for a bet and say Italy to finish third as a exact because I'm pretty sure that's where they're going to be. And then, I think Canada will beat Namibia. As I said again, they've played a little bit of Pacific now, and they play the USA B's team this week, or a few changes to USA, and I think Canada are competitive. And to me, I don't know, Namibia is just it's a sorry state.
Excellent. Welcome to Shane. He was actually watching international football games, Northern Ireland versus Germany, David v. Goliath stuff. I tell you what, I can't bring myself to watch those international football games. I'm looking forward to the English Premier League and the PSL, for that matter, being back this week. Judge, anything more on the group before we throw you guys another trivia question?
No, Matt, all good. I think if the Boks and the Kiwis draw, I think it'll just make for a little bit more fun and bring the calculators out for later on down the group. But I still don't think it's going to affect in any way, shape, or form one or two. Like I think those two guys are going through no matter, like if they draw 0-0, they're still going to go through with comfortably. So it doesn't really matter. It's just who goes one, who goes two. We'll see.
Excellent, Jock. I just want to make sure you understood you earlier. You were saying the Boks should throw the first game, right? No, I'm just ragging you. Don't worry. You're on mute, by the way. We can't hear your response.
Do you want me back on the show?
I couldn't resist. Don't
worry. Don't worry. I threw myself under the bus there. It's okay. I wore a Wallaby jersey, for crying out loud.
Brent, I'm a bit bummed that you didn't say that and then leave him on mute yourself. Like,
I should have muted him. I actually did that once to Hein once. He made a very good prediction the week before. I think it was on last year's Currie Cup final. And he was so dying to talk about it. So I asked him the question and I muted him, and he carried on talking for ages and no one could hear a word he said. But Jock, anything else from your side then on the group stages? You ready for the trivia question?
Go for it.
Okay, let's have a look. This question, we'll see if the guys in the live chat can get it before the panel. Which players scored the most points in a single tournament, a single Rugby World Cup tournament? See if you guys can get that one.
Is it one player or two?
It's one player.
I'm going to go.
Is it long ago or recent? Because, bloody hell, man.
It was long ago, okay?
Oh, shit.
Long ago. John Kerwin.
No, not tries, 8 points.
Not that. Yo.
Okay, I'm speaking to Johnny Wilkinson.
Stephen's got Simon Culhane. He scored the most points in a match. Fat Exorcist's gone Johnny Wilkinson. Johnny Wilkinson's the incorrect answer. Sam Smith also went Johnny Wilkinson. There's someone else here. I'm gonna throw another clue out there. You got to go back.
Yeah.
You got to go back to the very first World Cup.
Was it Fox?
Grant Fox.
Gee whiz.
Okay.
Hopefully I researched this correctly. Grant Fox got 126 points in 1987. I think Wilkinson.
That is a boatload of points.
Yeah, I didn't even realize like they played that many games in those days, you know. And Johnny Wilkinson was like, I think 113 back in 2003. So it was Grant Fox was it. Let's see if any of the guys in the live chat got it. I'll quickly have a look. Grant Fox was. Stephen did get it then. But yeah, that was a tough one. I must say, I wouldn't have got that one. I would have thought that it would have been something a lot more recent than that. But guys, we're nearing towards the end.
Here's another little bit of interesting stuff I saw today. I'm sorry to jump in.
No, go for it.
In the first World Cup, the All Blacks or New Zealand, I don't know if they were the All Blacks then. They had a 26-man squad. 26 man, the whole squad for the World Cup. Yeah, I don't know if that was the norm there, but I just know they had 26 players, and I was like, yes, we're struggling here with 31, and we bitching and moaning about it, and there they go there with 26 first World Cup. Let's see what happens. We just bang it out, you know.
Can you imagine? And Couch, I think you wanted to just touch on, and I'll start with you then, some of the smaller teams. What sort of role are they playing at the World Cup? I mean, I'll share my opinion on it. I love the World Cup, and I love the fact that we get the rushes, even if Russia are going to get a 90-point hiding at the hands of some team at some point in the competition. I still just love the fact that everybody comes together for the World Cup. At the end of the day, we all know there's the 8 teams or whatever that we're talking about that can actually win it. But I do enjoy that, and I'm not a great. I don't believe really that the World Cup is going to play such a role as to suddenly build up all these other teams. They'll have to get involved in tournaments like the Six Nations and that to do that. And even then, Italy, like you say, haven't been that strong. But personally, I love it. I love the flavour of a World Cup, and I suppose being a betting man as well, I sometimes love looking at a game and trying to figure out if the All Blacks are going to win by 64 points or more, or 63 points or less. So that's my view. What are your thoughts on it?
Brent, I just actually heard, I think Elite Rugby Banter talk about it this morning. I listened to a little bit of it, and I thought about it a while. And I know World Rugby's brought out this new league, but to me, this match, I mean, obviously, we might be punters or looking at it from a specific perspective, but to me, this All Black Tonga game was actually complete and utter nonsense. I don't actually think New Zealand got much out of it. I don't think. My argument is always, and I've actually often discussed it with my dad, is like, I don't think a team takes anything from a 94-7 beating. To me, it's better for them to play their own ilk, people at the roughly the same level as them, and not the world's best team that absolutely runs them to shreds. And I don't think you're learning anything about that. You're learning how bad you are and how good they are, but you're not taking anything from the game. And to me, that's a little bit of a waste. Now, obviously, as a few, I quite like the World Cup. All of a sudden, we're talking now about Japan and Samoa, and Russia and the team there. And I mean, how many games, unless you were doing specific research for something, you wouldn't really have seen Russia play. That'll be the first time you see Russia jog out, and it's great. And in sevens, we see Spain and that kind of thing, and Kenya, and it's exciting. But to me, there's a good place for it. But I just feel that the big thing is they need to play a lot more rugby. The big thing that Elite were talking about, which caught my attention, was that Tonga have a higher average in their World Cup squad than New Zealand has, but yet their caps average is like a third of what the New Zealand total cap is, or less. It's something ridiculous. So what they're basically saying is it's just how much less rugby Tonga play, Test rugby, as opposed to your New Zealanders. And I mean, that's just the one aspect. Now you still have to look at Super Rugby and that kind of thing. And it's almost like where the other guys have gotten better is when you got some guys who are starting to play in France and that kind of thing, like Italy have or whatever, where they play in one of the top leagues, and then you start getting good players. But if you're just playing around in your own local league and then playing 3 or 4 international games, and 2 of them are against Namibia and Russia or whatever, are you really going to get better? And the good example is Japan. I mean, look at how they've improved their game and how they knew they were going to be hosts and how much they put into the game. And that's almost the positive side of things, and the positive about having them there, and the positive of exposing them. But again, they had Super Rugby and that kind of thing to get into. What have Namibia done, and what has Namibia achieved in the last? I think they were in another World Cup as well. So where has the game gone in 10 years or 12 years in Namibia? And almost then back to the question, why are we not doing more as South Africans or more as World Rugby to help Namibia and Kenya to try and get on board and to try and play them? And that was one of the suggestions. To me, it's a waste. The box, it doesn't help us playing Kenya. We'll smash them. It's going to be the same as New Zealand and Tonga, but get them involved in some other way. And then as soon as you've built up that kind of thing, then let them play against each other, and then introduce some of them into the World Cup. But to me, it's a little bit of a waste having these tier 2 nations and not getting them playing enough rugby, and then wanting to let them play in a World Cup or whatever the case may be. So to me, the big thing is there that as we've talked about now in the first 2 pools, and we'll probably talk about the other one, is it's only Japan who are almost knocking on the door there to become into that 1.5 tier, but the rest we're not giving any chance. Your Canadas, your Namibias. So what are they bringing to the table, and why are they there? And are we doing enough, or is World Rugby doing enough to improve their game?
Couches in philosophical mood there, Judge. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult to pick out all these points. I fell asleep there for a sec, but it was just. No, I'm kidding. I agree totally. And there's a lot going on. Like if I watched a really interesting YouTube clip the other day, and for the life of me, it escapes me. But if you look at, they were talking about the perfect numbers and stuff for like World Cup winning sides, etc. But if you look at tier 1 nations, specifically if you look at like the top 5 guys, they play on average in a World Cup cycle, so 4 years, they play on average around about, I think it's a very high 40s to 50 test matches in that 4-year period. And if you look at the tier 2 sides, they are playing in the low 20s to 25 test matches in that 4-year period. So already there, the guys are already on the back foot. Like, you know, if you play in 4 years, you play 20 tests, or in 4 years, you can play 50 tests. That's a massive difference, you know? So, and it all comes down to like money and like, we understand the marketing and the money and the business side of things, but like, do we want the game to get bigger and better? And, you know, absolutely. Like, how are we going to draft the guys into, to playing in Curry Cup tournaments like the Argentina or the Pampas have done, and how it's built them, and is it sustainable over a longer period of time? So, you know, I think that's like how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? That's quite a long conversation. You know, I think that's like really good. I just there's a lot more to it, and I do want to say one thing. Like I've played rugby with 2 guys that played rugby in World Cups for Namibia, and like, and I'm by no means a good rugby player, and I'm not saying that they're not, but like, one was in the club with the guy, and the other team we played against, and like, it's great. Like, you get guys that are like, could literally be us, with respect. I'm sure you guys are a lot better rugby players than me, but like, if I could maybe have gone to the World Cup once. And how incredible is that? You know, the guys are literally, Namibians are, the guys are literally taking leave from work so they can go to the World Cup. I mean, how fucking rad is that? Like, it's pretty cool. And I think you know, there's so much like more to it. I think it does grow the game, and it does make like heroes in smaller places. It's just how we're going to build on it afterwards is such a long conversation, but I think it's great. I think a World Cup, you make up the numbers, whether, you know, you do it with Namibia or someone else. Like, it doesn't matter. I just think it's epic. Like, there's like, from a rugby player's point of view, like a rad experiences and chats and conversations, and you make new friends and you meet new people that you would never meet, and you get some cool kits, and, you know, you get to be heroes for 4 weeks. Like, I think it's amazing.
Well, let's bring Jacques in there, because Jacques, your Catch did mention about Namibia, and I think one good point, and I just want to bring up what you post. I've just taken this from your post in our chat, because you can't post directly on the live comments. You want Couch to watch the wonderful production SuperSport has put together on Namibia's road to the World Cup, so that'll be interesting for Couch to watch on Friday. But Couch made at one point there, which did ring true. Could South Africa, for example, be doing more for Namibian rugby? Now, I don't know what. To be honest, I don't follow the sort of. I mean, I know we have involved them in the past in competitions and that, but is there more that can be done by like a South Africa to expose them, perhaps play one test against them a year or something like that, or play the South Africa B? I mean, is there more that can be done for a team like Namibia?
Look, I think the rugby calendar is already so full. It's tough, and I mean, unless World Rugby does something where it allows more time, then I think, yes, it could be done, but it's the same as I think a few years ago there was that whole thing about, you know, the rest of Africa, and our sorry doesn't really do much for them in regards to, you know, help to grow the game as kind of like the main country in Africa, you know, that dominates rugby. So I mean, it's a tough one for, I think, for any nation to. I mean, you can say, I mean, I can't say in Europe, like for instance, you know, we can help the smaller countries there, because I mean, obviously Europe's much bigger. But I mean, I think South Africa can probably in some way or do more. I don't think by including teams in the Curry Cup really helps it. I mean, like recently now, suddenly the Jags are playing Curry Cup. I mean, how does that make any sense? After the Witches have been playing Curry Cup for how many years? It didn't seem to make much of a difference. I think at the end of the day, what it really does is it gives them a bit of exposure more than anything else. But in what way, you know, does it really help them? Yes, they get to play against bigger unions that are better settled and, you know, more equipped to do to get further, in life and stuff like that. But the reason I'm inviting Couch to watch this production is just to show him how much has changed. And I think once he's watched it, he'll have a bit of a different perspective about Namibian rugby. I saw the thing today for the first time, and I must say it really opened my eyes. And it's really, it's got nothing to do with who did it. It's just the story that comes out of it. It's I think your opinion about Namibia will change. I'm not saying these Oaks are going to come and win the World Cup or come second in a pool. Obviously not in our pool, but yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, the thing is, it's about exposure for these guys, but it shouldn't just be about exposure. And that, unfortunately, I think exposure is all that the World Cup brings these smaller or the second tiers and the lower nations. It's all that it really brings them. And like Brent said, Judge said, it allows them to be heroes for a day or maybe 4 weeks. And for someone in that country, these guys, become idols. So yeah, there's a lot more to be done. And I think, unfortunately, I don't think the solution lies with like Saru. I think World Rugby is going to have to do much more than they are doing.
Excellent. Well, and I think at the end of the day, Couch, that you guys are actually kind of saying the same thing there as well. You're sort of saying, what is the World Cup giving them? It is giving them exposure, but what does that exposure actually do if there's nothing else that's happening in between for the 4 years? And it sounds encouraging from what Jark says, and certainly I'll be making a plan to watch that as well and see what the guys say. And that's kind of the point you're making as well.
Yeah, Brent, I think the guys get me wrong there on the whole Namibia thing, and it's nice to be there and great slap on your back. But honestly, if you can't, you've got absolutely no chance of being there for the Springboks. You deserve to be there by going and playing Namibia and playing against the All Blacks and getting 100 points against you. My point is just that should any team play in the World Cup if they've got no chance of finishing third in a pool, then you got to start asking questions about, why are they there? If it's absolutely like these guys are now taking bigger squads, as we talked about, and they're going to be playing B teams full on against the Namibia and Canada. And I mean, don't get me wrong, if they've won their knockouts, they've deserved to be there in terms of they've done what they needed to do. I mean, Namibia are no easy beats in terms of the greater scheme of things. They're 20th in the world or something like that. That's not to be sneezed at. They've done that, but it's just the disparity at this stage to me is too big, and that's where hopefully the new system with World Rugby is going to work, where they play each other more often in Tier 2, and Tier 1 does the same, or I think it's only from the year after next. Then it's gonna start changing. So my thing is just, I mean, it's exactly the point that everyone has gone out of their way to help the Jaguares out, and they've helped Japan out. So why has certain countries gotten those privileges? And then if others don't, then surely South Africa should have said, but as Jark said, now, I mean, we've got the Jaguares playing here in Currie Cup. Why are we doing that? And when the Velviches was done, it wasn't a full team Velviches. It was almost like a second string kind of thing. So, get to agreement there. We've got a Kenya and a Namibia, and say, bring your best Oaks, and get some financial arrangements in place and get those guys playing week in and week out, because that's the only way you're going to improve rugby. And it's great what they achieved and what they've done, but Namibian rugby hasn't grown the way it should have in the last 10 or 12 years, and they've got to investigate, whose fault is it, and how are we going to change that? And we can't just keep spinning the same wheel and be here again in 10 years' time and expecting them to concede 100 points against New Zealand again.
Excellent. Well, I think we're going to do a whole program on Namibian rugby by the sounds of it. We do have one question we just want to get back to, though, just before we end the show, guys. And that was one raised by Shane, and I'm going to leave it to Judge to ask. Can I ask a non-Irish opinion? Should Rory Best be the captain for Ireland? Is he up to it at 37 years of age, or should it be Johnny Sexton? Judge, what do you think of that one?
Yeah, I must be honest, I don't have an issue with Bestie captaining. I will say, honestly, I don't think Johnny Sexton should be captain, even if Best wasn't. I think Sexton is a little bit erratic and stuff at the moment. I think he needs to focus on his own game, and a lot of the Irish players are under a bit more pressure. So if it wasn't going to be Best, who would it be? I'd probably look like at a more established sort of guy in the pack, But I think CJ. I think he would be a good shot because he's a really good leader. Cian Healy would be a call, but I don't know if Cian would really be in that space. I think CJ would probably be the best shot. But I'm just kind of throwing out options. The truth is I would go to this World Cup with Rory Best as my captain. If I was the Irish coach, I'd have no issue with it at all. I think he's established himself. I think that has been the game plan for so long. Like to drop that bomb and unravel it right now would probably not be ideal. I think the only thing like Best is struggling with at the moment, I think he's struggling with throwing his darts, and that's only something that's come about quite recently. And I think once they settle and sort everything out, I think it won't be a problem. I definitely think he's the best leader they have there, and I think they will definitely rally around him more than anyone else if they had to drop a bomb and if he was still in the squad. So I don't have an issue with Rory Best, and I don't think it's something that should be disputed. I think at the age of 37, it's kind of iffy and butty, and how was it going? But to be fair, last year when Ireland won the Six Nations and he was 36 and going into the World Cup, and everyone was like, no, he's the man. So I don't think that much has changed in a year.
Excellent, Judge. Thanks for that opinion. Guys, we'll bring that to the end. Let me just give you each a final word. Yellow Cap, good to have you on the show. Look forward to chatting with you on Twitter as well. And perhaps the next time you come on the show, we could ask you to wear that Aussie jersey.
Luckily, I don't own that jersey, so I don't have it. Sorry, guys.
I'm sure we can make a plan. But thanks a lot for...
I've got an all-black jersey, but that one's too small, so I'm not going to wear that either. Sorry.
Excellent, Jock. Thanks. Great having you on the show. Couch, good having you on the show there. Make sure to watch the program on Namibia, please, on Friday.
Cheers, Brent. I was going to say I'll probably go to Sportsman's Warehouse and buy a Namibia jersey just to keep everyone happy. But then again, I probably won't be able to find one. So they're going to have to make a plan for me there.
If there's someone from Namibia, Jacques will organize you one if you wear it on the next show. Excellent. And the guys are actually counting down. Yeah, Chris saying 10 days, 14 hours to go. So that's it exactly.
Awesome.
We can't wait for the World Cup. And Judge, I'll give you the final word. Can't wait for this tournament to round. It's going to be something else. I'm a little bit worried about some of the time frames, just in that I do have a day job, but can't wait for this one.
Yeah, mate, I'm amped, and thanks for that. Another great show. I think there's an early scottle with a little bit of a brekkie and maybe a little warm-up beer just to start the day, and some World Cup rugby. Happy days.
Excellent. Well, I'm root for me on Saturday. What's it? The day we play in New Zealand. I didn't actually. Well, I'm flying out. My daughter plays a water polo tournament down in Grahamstown, and we're going down to PE first. I'm flying down at 8:40, I think it is, or 8:20. So I landed about 10:20. So I'll make the game because it's at 12:15. But if there's any delays or whatever with my flight, I'm in massive trouble.
I don't want to hear about it. I'm in England. One of my best mates is getting married, and we are literally watching the game in a pub, all dressed up. And if the game goes any longer than 10 minutes over schedule, we miss the last 5 minutes because we need to go to the wedding. So I'm either going to lose my best mate, or I'm not going to watch the last 10 minutes of the game, and I'm going to miss the oak, bro.
We better hope the typhoons don't cause any delays. I must tell you one thing, just very quick reminisce for me. 1998 at a mate's wedding, it was the Bok test against the All Blacks in Durban, and there was a pub next to the wedding reception area, and all the guys ended up huddling in this pub. And it was a game where we came back from well down, and I think Skinstad scored and Dalton was involved. And in the end, I must tell you, it absolutely made the wedding because everyone was in such a good mood. So hopefully the same thing will happen to your mate's wedding as well. Excellent, guys. Thanks very much. Thanks to all of you guys on the live chat as well. I will just mention there were a couple of betting-related questions on there. On Thursday night, that's where we talk mostly from a betting angle, the handicap rugby chat that matters. That's Thursday at 9. And this week we are going to be looking specifically, there's not a lot of other rugby on the go this week, a bit of Meter 10 Cup. We're going to be looking specifically at the Rugby World Cup markets and perhaps even a look ahead at some of the first games. So join us there on Thursday night. Do go down below and subscribe to the show if you have not done so. Thanks, everyone. Been good having your company, and we'll see you next week.